In the very beginning, Doug and I were living in the middle of this paradise, and we said it would be incredible to save this place. Just save it.
From inception to finish, it took us about 7 years to make Wildlife. We watched about 150 hours of archival footage.
How big was our crew for Wildlife? 7 to 8 at the max, and sometimes just 2. We shot across a few different cameras, from the Canon C300, the Canon C500, the Alexa Mini, and also a Red Dragon.
We spent about 2.5 months filming in South America, right?
No.
More? Okay.
Well, I mean, if you count the archival film.
We spent about 4 months filming in South America over 7 years.
These were the original dirtbag climbers and surfers and skiers who go on to create the outdoor clothing business as we know it.
And then there was the change.
Where did this idea come from? Where were you sleeping when it came to your head and you grabbed a notebook and said, I want to make this movie?
Well, this was kind of a slow burn, I would say. We knew there was an extraordinary story here and an important message to get across. I don't know.
We never wake up in the middle of the night and say, we have to make this film. I think our process is much more painful in that we back into our projects, because no one really wants to make a documentary film. At least I don't, because I know how much work it is. And I know that I won't stop until it's perfect. And it's like a compulsion, So it has to become basically such an important issue to us, or such a compelling story, that we have to make the movie. So this one, we were flirting with the idea for some time. I mean, we thought, Doug Tompkins and Chris Tompkins' story was extraordinary. Yvonne Chouinard was extraordinary, but at the same time, they're like a different generation. They're extremely private. They own their own businesses. And Jimmy was very close to them. Doug and Yvonne are icons of the outdoor world, right? Like, they've established the North Face, Esprit, Patagonia, like these people, they kind of were the original dirtbags. But for me, as an outsider, that was too close. I didn't want to get in trouble with Jimmy. I didn't want to get in trouble with them. Because I know that we will always be the type of filmmakers we are. So it was after Doug died, when just watching this woman who's absolutely extraordinary, Christine Tompkins, pick herself up and find the strength to fulfill this extraordinary dream of, the largest private land donation in history, and how she found her voice later in life, how she found purpose, how she had the ability to make the really hard decisions, was very inspiring. So I think we've been looking for, we make this film for our kids because it's a hopeful environmental call to action film that's also a big love story with great heart.
On any scorecard, nature is losing.
They saw nature being destroyed. And if we destroy nature, we destroy ourselves.
The ultimate do-it-yourself approach to saving the earth. Buying it.
Doug here 1 second, not here the next. Chris having to pick herself up and then continue a legacy. How did that personally speak to you as parents to 2 children?
We were just really inspired by the way that Doug and Chris and that friend group that involved Yvonne Chouinard and Rick Ridgway, how they lived their lives and the choices that they made. This is a longitudinal film. You really track from going over their entire story and their lives, and these really kind of pivotal moments in their lives where you see that they never settle and that they're always pushing to do something more. Talk about taking risks. It's different than our other films where it's present in this way, where it's very physical, high stakes. But it took so much courage for them to kind of lead the lives that they've led. And I think for us, that story is important on so many different levels. And we hope that audiences connect to it in that way.
We started to realize it was possible to create a national park with the idea that we would donate it back to the country.
And they're going, come on, nobody does that.
I feel like there's always 2 moments throughout the creation of a film. One that happens on set and then one that happens in the editing room. And it's that moment where you feel like we got something. What was that for you when you were shooting? And then what scene is that you saw in the editing room that you were like, this is the movie?
Visually, of course, I mean, I think we had the goal of really expressing the beauty of this place that Doug and Chris and Yvonne worked so hard to save. But I think, our films really kind of lean in on the human aspects of the story. Of course, we love verite, but for me, there were some interview moments with Chris and Yvonne, where you're capturing something that's real and authentic and a real sense of emotion. I'll say I've never cried more doing interviews on a movie than this one.
And then the worst thing that could happen to me happened.
Douglas Tompkins died Tuesday in an accident in Chile.
The moment in the edit, which was like totally pivotal, was when we decided to have Doug die in the beginning. And it changed the movie because it was our commitment that this film is actually about, focuses on Chris and how she finds her voice, even though Yvonne and Doug are such an important part of this. With all films, there are many different versions of that film. Like there's a funny free solo version where I was like, it's the Casanova free solo. Like, he falls in love in the beginning. And which is not the case, but we learn something from every version. And that change, which was like scary to do, was important. It was a pivotal moment.
I was on my knees. This audacious vision of Doug's, that was like a life raft for me. We need to finish up these parks. It's now or never.
What is that conversation like between you two? Can you take me back to that moment?
It's just how we make films is we break the film. It's like you try to break it as many times until it's unbreakable, right? And so that's one of those things. Is like you don't really think. I think that's why we love working with Bob Eisenhart too, who's edited Meru, Free Solo, The Rescue, and now this, because it's unsentimental for us, but we're very good watchers. So it's like, you try something funny, you watch it, you learn something, you work it up, polish it. Oh, let's try to fuck it up this other way. So I call it breaking the movie. And like producers have said, like, I think it's time to stop breaking the film. And I'm like, no, of course, you've got to keep on breaking the film because that's how they become great. I don't know how many films we're going to make in our lives, but if we're going to make one, we have to give it everything we have and know we tried everything.
I mean, I'm always sentimental when she cuts something and it takes me a little time to recover, but that's how we work.
Doug would be so happy.
They define an entire way of life.
Look at this incredible wildness as far as you can see.
If Nat Geo was like just anything, don't worry about length. What is not in the film that broke you a little bit that you're like, God, I wish we could have found?
No, nothing. That's not how we do it. Yeah. And Nat Geo is like, it doesn't matter what length it is. We really don't like long films. It has to, like, you have to earn every single minute. And having made 2 mistakes that I can still kick myself every single time in previous films, where every time I watch that movie, I can still feel how I made the decision or didn't have that certain fight. That's why we take 16 months at least to edit. We take our time. You have to grab the movie out of our hands. Like our whole crew knows that we're going to go to a festival and then I'm going to cut again. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And we try to screen as often as we can because the feedback is fun. I mean, there's one scene here that just couldn't fit. So I wish we could have put it in, but
it kills me.
But it really would, the film wouldn't work. The film would be a lesser film. So it's not because of length or any other reason. It was because of narrative structure. And that was a story about Doug's greatest kind of marketing campaign, which was protesting a clear cut that was going to be made across Chile, the country, from tail to toe.
Dams.
Yeah, it was the dam, but it was building a dam in Patagonia to create electricity to pump to the north for the mines, and it would have created the world's longest clear cut of forest. And it's just a great story, but it just didn't fit. So it's not. There's like no sentimentality to it. I just wish I could have put it in somewhere, and we tried everything. We tried it in like 100 different places.
It still pains me because it said a lot of things about Doug, but even when I watch it now, I don't know where it would go. So
Yeah.
it is one of those things where you can't be too sentimental. She's not sentimental at all because she
That's not
knows
true.
it
I'm
makes it-
extremely emotional.
Yeah.
It's not that it's just not sentimental, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like I get very moved. I'm a good watcher. I cry during National Treasure, you know.
Before I died, I wanted this life. Something wild.